I'm Kier from In Defense Of, a podcast member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1...
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
Did you know Magic Mike XXL is actually on the top 25 list of this year's best movie?
They're witty.
He loves him some Katy Perry because she kissed a girl and she liked it.
They're crazy.
I like Nickelback personally, but, I'm the fuddy-duddy who likes episode 1.
And sometimes they leave you wondering, what the f***?
I'm pretty sure that here we were starting the hashtag movement, Bring Back Slave Ferrell.
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 166 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. My name is Jondrew, and with me today is Chris Ferrell.
I'm a producer.
We also have with us the one and only Pioneer Stargate.
Woohoo! I don't have to produce this one! Yay!
And JS is indeed away again, but have no fear, his French-Canadian awesomeness is non-existent because we have Sunkast from GFQ Network. Hi, Sunkast.
Gotta catch them all.
If you're watching the video side of things today, or if you have very astute listening abilities, you will notice that I am a little bit different today. That's right. My wife kicked me out of the house and I'm podcasting from a hotel room.
About time.
Also undergone a gender reassignment surgery.
That's
we
true.
weren't supposed to
That's
talk
true.
about that yet.
I am indeed Stephanie Jondrew today. No, I am actually in Neil, if you don't know him, wonderful Neil from the Starling Tribune, his fair city this week for work. I am in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, and I think I see Flash right down there, and Arrow, and Tron, and Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. I see a whole bunch of stuff.
What about the ghosts of Smallville past?
Oh, yeah, there they are. Yeah, whoa.
Excellent.
How's everybody's week going this week?
Is it Friday yet?
I shouldn't ask that question. It's, yeah. By the way, if you do watch us at geeks.live, I want to take this moment here to highlight that we have a bunch of amazing live geeky content. And over the last 3 to 6 months, two of these three gentlemen here have been upping their game from a video perspective. And I just want to tip my hat on this podcast to Chris and Stargate Pioneer.
Well, I'm the new Sunkast, so I think you actually got that right.
Whoa, yeah, I just realized you guys are both here, but what? Superman, Clark can't be in the same place at the same time, huh?
In this case, he is the one who has the chair, and I am just guesting, so I'm the new Sunkast. We discussed this like 2
Okay, that
casts
makes
ago.
sense now.
Oh, man. What sort of mess have I made for myself?
Wait until you edit today.
All right, well, let's just go ahead and move into the news. Chris, play the bump. All right, so in our news this week, let's start off with our guest of honor, John Bubb, a.k.a. Stargate Pioneer. What do you have for your news today, John?
So, you might have noticed if you're on the East Coast that on Friday, there was a lot of websites that you may not have been able to access. Apparently, there was a very large DDoS attack going on. And this is a very interesting one because it was targeting DNS and it knocked out thousands of websites such as Twitter, Spotify, the New York Times, Reddit, Yelp, Box, Pinterest, PayPal, and many more other websites. And this was actually a tool called Mirai. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the tool, but this is a new tool that can create a botnet from internet-connected devices. Think Internet of Things devices. Anything that you have in your home that's internet-connected that isn't necessarily a PC. But like you have
they're going to hack my light bulbs?
Yeah, they could do that.
The one that I found very interesting was the DVRs. That is a big one because a lot of people who haven't cut the cord have a DVR. So everybody just about has one of these things that they're talking about.
Which that explains exactly why I have a bunch of recorded Kardashians. They hacked my DVR.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
It's interesting because this tool takes advantages of the weak security protocols that are found in many Internet of Things devices. And this was actually done a little bit ago with the website, or the security website, Krebs. If you remember, that website was knocked out for quite a while, for a number of days. And this was the same tool being used, and it takes advantage of these weak protocols. In the case of Krebs, there was about 145,000 different devices that were infiltrated, including cameras and DVRs in homes and offices around the world. So this is very interesting that we now have to think about securing these types of devices.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you actually put this in the show notes there, because I think that it's insane, right? Like, we always look so much about security elsewise. Do we have a router with a firewall? Are we running antivirus protection? Are we making sure we're going through a secure connection that is not a public connection when you're doing Gonna Geek podcast? We make sure we're doing all of these things, and yet our devices that we're just basically opening our lives to the world. That's what we're doing here. We're like, okay, let's smart connect everything, but not pay attention to security. It's insane.
Yeah. Chris, I know you're on the East Coast. Were you affected by this any?
If I was, I didn't know because I was at work during this time and I was in meetings all morning. So I came back upstairs and I saw somebody had something in group text about it. And I went, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I pulled out my phone and went to twitter.com and it worked. So at that point in time, everything was working, but it was like noon. I'd been down in 4 hours worth of meetings all day.
Well, it was very interesting because it actually happened in waves. So there was like 3 different attacks that happened all in the span of 24 hours. So it was like that first wave in the morning, and then it let up for a little bit, and then there was a second wave, and then they finally started getting a handle on it after the third wave. So there was brief times where these websites were up and working, but there was also 3 different times where they were just being hammered so much by this attack that nobody could access them. And I did notice that Twitter was down a little bit for me, but in large part, I actually didn't notice any issues.
Yeah. So if you're a major company and your website was not on that big old list of known websites that were affected, gee, how do you feel? A, you could feel good because your security actually worked, or B, you can feel like, oh crap, we missed out on publicity. And oh, by the way, I did not see GFQ on that list.
No problems with GFQ because we moved away from DIN.
Yeah, unfortunately, GonnaGeek.com was down. No, I'm just kidding. It is weird, though, because, yeah, a lot of people reported these outages, but a lot of people, like myself, never saw it. Now, I read things that said sometimes regionally it was primarily the states that was impacted, but I'm like, how does that make sense? How does that make sense, though? Because I'm still going to the U.S. servers. Why was I not affected as well as a Canadian?
Do you know if you were indeed going through the U.S. servers, or were you rerouted through one of the other 11 major hubs in the world?
You know what? Now that I think about it, when I do browse a website, there is the smell of bacon, maple bacon.
Bacon.
You know what this proves as well is that you really can't rely on one DNS provider for your website.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a single point of failure.
And that's what, when we look at it, with how many big companies were affected, it's such a big pointer to the fact that this is a problem and people need to smarten up.
Yeah.
Just like the refrigerators, right? Got to smarten up the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's true. Next thing you know, the refrigerator will tell me not to actually drink my beer. That's the day that I just am going to desmartify everything. Screw that. No.
Well, wait, Steven, you're the guy that is all of a sudden, I started dabbling in home automation. Like, screw you, I'm going to beat you on everything on home automation.
Oh, well, hold on a minute. Your fridge is not going to tell you to stop drinking. It's going to tell you to stop singing.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know about that. It's a dollar thing. So eventually just think about this, and any futuristic look in sci-fi or whatever usually has this sort of thing where you are health regulated by smart devices all around you saying, no, you can't have it. Look at Blade Runner. I mean, they're telling him he can't frickin' have that second bowl of noodles.
Yeah. No, Steven, I cannot do that. I cannot give you your Twinkie.
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, there is some kind of cool but creepy at the same time kind of stuff coming out. There's that one Samsung fridge or whatever that has like cameras inside it, so you can see what is in your fridge without actually opening your fridge. It's obviously a proof of concept kind of thing, and not a ton of people are going to use it. But think of the potential for misuse there. Samsung gives the ability to Company X to go and see what's in your fridge and be like, oh, Steven likes him some Miller Lite and some Pabst Blue Ribbon and Twinkies. That's all that's in his fridge. So we can target ads to him better.
Can I just set the record straight right now that I like one of those three things, okay? The other two I will have in a pinch when I'm out of good beer.
Well,
so you want your Molson, eh?
How about we go get some Molson, eh?
Right. Before any of that happens, though, if it's a Samsung refrigerator, it's going to heat up and explode when you recharge it every night.
If your refrigerator explodes, that would really kind of suck, but it would cook the food potentially.
Yeah, that would just be a big old mess.
Yeah, well,
but
who knows?
here's the
Worse
thing.
has happened.
No, Chris, if it explodes, it's probably plumbed with water, which is absolutely a great way to put out your exploding washing machine.
There you go. Well, the ice maker's going to put it out, you see. The ice maker's going to keep going, and then that water pipe's going to explode when the fridge explodes. So it's just going to keep spraying water all over that fridge.
Have you ever installed one of these things? You know how small of a water pipe that is going into
it's ridiculous.
The refrigerator?
Ask my college downstairs neighbors about that one time where it came loose on the back of our fridge, and we didn't know it until the maintenance guy comes in and goes, hey, you guys dripping water somewhere? So what are you talking about? And he moved our fridge and started laughing because evidently we were like, hey, the ice maker hasn't worked for 2 months. We don't know what's going on. And it just sat there and leaked behind the fridge for 2 months.
And here we are talking about smart fridges.
Think of the mold. Think of the mold.
Hello, everybody. This is This Week in Smart Fridges.
Twist? Is that what it's going to be? Is twist?
Exactly. This episode of This Week in... No, I can't do it.
This Week in Smart Technology, so we can be twist. See?
There you go. You got your new podcast.
There you go.
There you go. All right, we'll leave SP to do that. He's got enough room on his plate. But let's move on to our next news point here, which is about the wonderful LG G series cell phones. This is one that I actually caught my attention because, as I've mentioned on this very show, I considered the LG G5 cell phone this year. I have since ruled it out. However, I did quite like it. This is the phone where when you ended up basically sliding out the bottom, you could put in new pieces. It was completely modular. So you could put in a new battery, you could put in a larger battery, you could put in a camera attachment. They called this Friends. It was the Friends of the LG G5. And when it was initially announced, some people thought it was kind of an interesting concept. However, the word on the street is that the LG G6 is rumored to be getting rid of the module feature. And so I personally think that this kind of sucks because I think that it had a lot of potential, and where LG went wrong is, number one, they made a phone that wasn't that pretty, so it turned people off. It really, the LG G5 isn't that pretty of a phone. And secondly, they didn't launch with enough attachments. And third, they called it Friends. I think that it's a dumb name, but all of those things there, I think it's too bad it's looking like they're going to abandon it, because I do think that the modular idea is a really good idea, especially given the recent battery problems that have been in the news with other brands. And I do think that this is really, really a shame because they had something that was meant to be swapped out, the battery.
Yeah, you just wanted to say you got friend zoned. That's all it was.
I got friend zoned. Sunkast, I actually first heard about this phone, and I don't want can you take your headphones off, because I don't want the tension when your head gets so big when I tell you that I actually first heard about the G5 on your very show. And
Oh, yeah?
So I want to know exactly. There you go. You see his head? It's just double in size right now. You can just see that in his face. But no, seriously, that's where I first heard it. And at the time, you sounded pretty interested, if I remember correctly. But you also thought the phone sounded a bit ugly. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but this was like very early on, and I think they've very much refined it since then. But it's, to me, this is very much of, a phone manufacturer trying to make phones like desktop PCs, where you can swap out components of a desktop PC, upgrade it in incremental moments. Let's say you wanted to upgrade the video card later down the road or add more RAM. It's that same concept, only brought for mobile phones and mobile devices. However, it doesn't seem like it really caught on.
Well, here's one thing to consider is Google wanted to do something very similar with the whole modular smartphone idea, and it never really made it out of Google Labs. They put some concept out there about it. I remember reading some articles about it, but it was never very strongly emphasized. And if you really want to do an Android phone that's cutting edge, Google's been doing a lot of that lately, trying brand new ideas. And if they drop it, it's probably an indicator.
Yeah, no, I think though it does have potential, but they just took too many missteps. That's my opinion, and I think that they could have come back with the G6 and done it better. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just terrible at judging phones. I don't know.
There was a lot of uncertainty I had with it, at least, because everything was going to work with the current generation LG phone. But what was to stop them from saying, "Oh, you got to buy all new Friends packs when you buy next year's new phone model"? Ideally, they would make them interchangeable between models, but there was no guarantee, and really, most of the friend attachments were stuff I didn't care about. There was an expanded battery feature, which is kind of cool. There was a super camera grip with a better lens, which is okay, but I'm happy with what's currently in my smartphone personally. And then the third one was a headphone jack or whatever, or something like that, to give better audio out, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. One of the digital audio connectors, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. But yeah, you bring up a great point about the cross-generation compatibility, and how can you do that, right? Like I as you know, I'm shopping for a phone, and I've been doing a bunch of comparisons and just comparing different phones and their size differences even from year to year. It'd be really hard because the nature of that is with the G5, it essentially is the bottom part that pulls down, and how can you make that compatible with another phone unless it's the exact same look and the same size?
That's a good point.
One word: bumpers.
Boop, boop. You mean like bumping fists?
No.
I know.
Internet fist bump.
Now, SP, as our resident iPhone fanboy, I know Sunkast uses iPhone, but he's told me a couple of times that he only uses it because you use an iPhone.
That's true.
SP, what's your thoughts on this? Have you ever had any desire to have a product like this where you can have all sorts of friends?
Okay, so I first took a look at this when it was in this concept, when it was in the development stage, and they had like little boxes that were in the phone, and the phone was just big, bulky. It looked like a 1980s cell phone. It did not look like the sleek models today. With the form factor that we have today and the size of the components and the fact that they are really squeezing in every single moment of space that they can get in there, there's no way that this is actually going to work. It would all be external attachments, and who really wants to do that with their cell phone? I mean, it's what I've got now. It's all inclusive. It's got the camera. It's got the big screen because I've got the phablet version, the 6 Plus, and it's got everything. It's got speakerphones and front-facing camera, and I don't need anything else in my phone. And if I do need something else in my phone, when the phone dies, I'll go get a new one. The one thing that I will say about all these phones is I'm glad I am not forced to shop for a new phone today, because this generation has the most uncertainty in the fall of 2016 that I have seen in a very long time. And I'm just glad to be able to sit on the sidelines for a year and wait for all this crap to sort out and come back at it.
I agree with you. As you know, I am likely this week, if not next week, buying a Google Pixel. But when we look at the generations, the Google Pixel was really a gamble. They've got a higher price tag with missing a couple features compared to the other phones in that price tag. And they've gone and they've changed the OS on there, which is something they've never really done. iPhone stripped the headphone jack. Samsung
is uncertainty for very good reason, as we all know. Hint, it's the fact that it has a fire feature. And LG in itself is throwing out some really different but similar models. Like when you compare the G5 to the V20, they're very similar, but on the other hand, the V20 has a second screen at the top. You're right. Tons of uncertainty right now.
And so if I'm going to complain about cell phones real quick, the feature that's really missing from all of these cell phones I've seen this year is some of them have dual speakers, but none of them have the dual front firing speakers like the Nexus 6P has. I can't go back to not having dual firing front speakers after having it, because it's so much a better experience when you pull up a video on your phone or something like that. You get much better sound.
I will add on to all of this by saying it's not just cell phones. If you take a look at the laptop industry right now, it has completely shifted in 1 year. And you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Now, laptops have gone through revolutions in the past few years. They've taken out the optical drive. They've added touch screens and so on and so forth. But the laptops that are available today are drastically different than they were just a year ago. You're talking smaller capacity SSDs are normal now. So if you want a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte hard drive in there, it's usually when it comes with 2 hard drives in there, whether it's an SSD or what's that drive that plugs into the board or whatever. But if you I've been looking at them, and just in the last few months, they've completely changed. So it's not just the cell phone, it's all electronics are just undergoing this radical change. So just keep in touch with what's going on, because in a year, it's going to be different than it is today.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to, as far as the modular design goes, is that it was just extremely complex or complicated, and just not a large enough market to support something like that. When you can do these really amazing phones, and it just works out better for the industry, I think.
Yeah. I would like to see more phones, though, come back to the removable battery eventually. I know that's not going to happen because everybody wants waterproofing, but I still would really like, I don't know, I'd almost take the battery option myself.
Maybe Samsung should consider that.
Yeah, because then they don't explode as easily.
I thought the next generation of phone was going to be able to be powered by your individual electrical field off your body energy. So there would be no battery in the phone.
Well, then I am very happy, because then I need a small battery because my body is hot.
Hot and be able to generate electricity are two different things, buddy.
I got a crisp facepalm. That's all I was looking for. Let's go ahead and move on to our next news point. Stargate Pioneer. What do you have going on in the world of space? Like, what have you actually put in space this week?
Nothing. I have put nothing in space this week. But if you remember, quite a few years ago, there was a little engineering faux pas in that somebody couldn't convert between English units and metric units, and we ended up bombing Mars. Well, guess what happened last week? We bombed Mars again. Yes, we, as in the ESA, the European Space Agency, in their ExoMars lander, which is one of the couple of dozen of news stories that I've been following that I've wanted to talk about. I left for the wrong month out of the year with space news.
Only a dozen, SP?
Take a look at the show notes. It's a couple of dozen. So what we're talking about is the lander version of the ExoMars lander. It's nicknamed Schiaparelli, and it is known as the Entry, Descent, and Landing Demonstrator Model, the EDM. So what happened is the ExoMars probe got to Mars, and it separated between the EDM and the TGO, the Trace Gas Orbiter. And it tried to land while the Trace Gas Orbiter tried to insert itself into Martian orbit. The TGO successfully inserted itself into Martian orbit. Schiaparelli, on the other hand, it worked until about 1 minute before its planned touchdown. So it was about 2.5 miles, maybe as little as 1.2 miles above the Martian surface when the thrusters cut out. And they estimate its impact was at 186 miles per hour. It was confirmed by the MRO, the Martian Reconnaissance Orbiter. They actually took a low resolution picture of the impact region. So they saw a large light colored area on the sand, which is the size and shape, which is commensurate with the parachute, and a debris field, smaller, blacker debris field. So They say it's confirmed. This week, they'll try to take a higher resolution picture of the area to see if they can determine any additional things. Hard to tell what exactly went wrong. The ESA estimates that it actually had propellant on board when it crashed, so there was likely an explosion. No figure. So the interesting part, though, was ESA came out with a statement, which I am going to summarize here. They did a lot of complicated math, but basically they came up with it's 96. The ExoMars probe is 96% successful because most of the success was put in the TGO. The TGO is not just going to sense into the Martian atmosphere, but it's also going to be a communications relay satellite for even NASA for the United States until 2022. So it was really good that the TGO was able to insert itself. It's going to go around, calibrate its instruments for about the next year. Then it's going to start a couple of year sensing lifespan. So we will see all the great things from that. But yes, we did indeed, as a human species, attack another defenseless planet again.
How do you know it's defenseless, though? Do we really know?
Did they shoot it down? I don't know. I mean,
could have. How do we know? We don't have a cause of crash, so
only the NASA director would know.
But Curiosity was in the viewpoint of it.
It could be Martians with superior technology. They don't have to have people on the surface for it to be shot down or anything. We don't know what kind of technology they have.
Sometimes the temporary stand-in director of NASA, that nobody has more capable space technology than NASA. So we're all good there. The Martians, no, they don't have as good a stuff as we do. Otherwise, they would be bombing us, and they're not.
Okay, so what we learned from this segment was that Martin Schiaparelli, the pharma whatever guy, he likes EDM music. That's what I got from this segment. So
I'm so glad I was able to enlighten your science brain tonight, Stephen. How much Molson have you had?
I don't drink Molson. I drink real beer. It smells like armpit.
I think he had a couple of pills.
No, seriously though. I would like to know. Okay, so who created this item that bombed Mars? Which country?
That would be the European Space Agency, which their director is General John Warner.
Okay, so as we are all North American citizens, let's go ahead and blame the Europeans. I think that's the safest place to do. There has never been any problem from blaming another country for something.
No, that should work out well with you since your queen, your monarch, is European.
Don't even remind me on that.
God save the queen, Stephen. God save the queen.
All right, I'm going to take a deep breath here and turn it over to Chris for the last news point that we've got today, which is about Nintendo.
Yeah, guys, let's talk about video games. And the internet kind of blew up in excitement late last week when Nintendo released the first video for what we'd been calling the Nintendo NX, which we now know to be the Nintendo Switch console. For 3 minutes of video, everyone has been dissecting a ton of this on the internet, so let's give you guys some high points on the Switch. In this reveal video, they showed that the Switch is a portable console hybrid designed to be taken on the road or hooked up to a TV at home. Basically, it's a tablet you can plug into a dock when you're at home and then play games on your TV. It was confirmed that it is an NVIDIA Tegra chipset in there, so that's a lot of what you see in the Shield consoles that NVIDIA is developing in the Shield tablets. They also did confirm that this dock that you put the tablet in does not provide any additional horsepower for the console itself. It is literally just a way to dock it and put the picture on the big screen. And I had heard on Daily Tech News show that you're talking about a 720p picture you're going to get on this console when it's plugged in. So in today's world where everyone's going 4K, that's kind of an interesting move. But again, remember, Nintendo's always been about novel gameplay. They don't care as much that it looks super pretty, but they care more that it's fun. Some other interesting notes we saw on the Nintendo Switch, they have moved back to using cartridges now, because this is a tablet that's meant to be carried around, so you can't very easily use discs because they're going to skip and scratch. So that calls into question, will there be any kind of backwards compatibility with the Wii or the Wii U? Presumably, you might be able to play games via the Virtual Console, but we don't really know for sure yet. Some of the interesting stuff we did see on this, though, was Nintendo unveiled their controllers for this. Now, if you've seen the video yourself, you know that the Switch console basically looks like a Wii pad, a gaming pad that you take with you, only you can pull the two controllers off the side and put it in a docking station. And what's cool is those two controllers can also be docked into one controller, so you can play that way. You can split them off and hand one of them to your buddy so you can play a cooperative game on this console. And it's kind of a novel concept. It's similar to what you've seen come from Nintendo before. They will have a traditional Pro controller like we've seen in the Wii and the Wii U, which means it basically looks similar to an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One controller. If I were getting one, that would be what I'd be targeting. Some interesting stuff, though, this time around also, there seems to be more developers on board. One of the things that really hurt the Wii U was the fact that third-party developer support was lacking at best. EA did put a port of Mass Effect 3 on there that was so-so, and there were some other third-party games that were okay, but predominantly Nintendo was built on the last two generations of consoles, on their great games like Zelda, Mario Party, all Mario Maker, things like that. They did announce with this release that there are studios such as EA, Activision, and Bethesda that will be supporting the new console, and part of the release video showed people playing Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch, and while it is an older game, it is still a well-beloved game that many people are playing, so you can play that on the Nintendo Switch. We do know, tentatively, it's supposed to be coming out March 2017 is what all the rumors are, but we don't know much else. We just got a nice 3-minute preview of this, and we've dissected a ton of it, trying to get an idea of just what the Switch might entail. Some things we still need to find out before it comes out. What's the exact launch date? What are the launch games that are coming on it? If Nintendo is smart, they're going to launch it with a Mario and a Zelda game, because that's what's going to drive gamers to buy it, because Nintendo has a rabid fan base. Is it going to poach on their mobile gaming side of things? Because remember, the Nintendo DS, while it is old hardware, it still sells like gangbusters because people take their DSs with them everywhere. They're kind of infringing upon their own market a little bit by releasing a hybrid mobile/home gaming device. Oh, two other things I want to bring up that we need to figure out. Is this going to be a touchscreen on this tablet or not? We assume it is, but nothing in the video showed that it was a touchscreen to interact with. So it could very well just be you have to use your controllers to interact with things, and then your UI is kind of a tough to deal with because it's a 6-inch screen on this. So you've got to be very smart about how you design your UI. And finally, what is it going to cost? Nobody has any idea what the price is going to be. There's a lot of rumors out there, and I think I was listening to Daily Tech News show last week when they were talking about the reveal, and it came down to them. They were asking, what's the magic price point for you? What in your world, for an instant buy for you guys, what would that price be? And then what do you think the price is actually going to be on the Nintendo Switch? Any thoughts?
I was thinking about getting a Switch, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
Well played, well played.
I have a question. So is this meant to replace the Wii U?
That is my understanding. Is this is coming to replace the Wii U. There was no talk of the Wii U actually being stopped in production, but they might as well because it's not selling very well anymore.
No.
I know some people were discussing the price and whether or not, at what price point would this work if it does or does not have extended power with the dock. And since it doesn't, personally, I think, gosh, if it's more than $250, I think it's going to be a hard sell. I think regardless, this is going to be a little bit of a hard sell, and I still think that it's nowhere ever going to be as successful as you see with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox.
Yeah. For me, I think like when we look at the Nintendo recent history, Nintendo as a console maker was essentially dead until the Wii. That as a home console maker, they were dead until the Wii came along. And one of the reasons Wii got so successful was because it was outside of the traditional console box. That was what it was. Everybody loved it. It was something fresh, something new, something enjoyable as a group. So that's where they hit their mark there. Then they come and they try to recreate it, but
up the graphics a bit with Wii U and add an extra tablet, and it didn't hit the mark again. So I think with this here, it's all going to come down to whether or not people like this concept, because it is quite different. And do they actually want this concept? And if it's not the same sort of fanfare that the Wii got, I don't see it being successful. And in turn, the price has to be lower to get any market.
So the magic price point, I think, is like Sunkast said, is $199, because that's what the Shield consoles are going for right now. And this is roughly the same chipset that's going to be in the Nintendo Switch. So you could argue comparable hardware potentially, and then you might see some additional bundles on top of, you can pay this much more to get it with your Wii U Pro, or your Switch Pro controller, or this much to get with an extended battery pack or something like that. I think you have to try and make the base price point ideally would be $199. They're probably going to make it $249, maybe even $299, I think. And there was a leak that came out of the UK from a game store where they had a listing for it that was pulled down for £349. Do I think that's accurate? No. It's probably someone just took a guess as to what it was going to be, and it was taken down quickly. But if it's £349, which means roughly $399, you could think, there's no way that's a tough sell. I can go buy my kid an iPad, like, here, take your iPad. That guarantees you get 12 hours of battery life when you're going and doing stuff. Because again, like Sunkast mentioned, one of the other uncertainties, which I forgot to mention, we have no idea what the battery life's going to be like.
I've been monitoring the deal sites because I've been looking at the next generation of consoles to give my kids. They're working off of Xbox 360s right now or whatever. So for Christmas, I'd like to give them an Xbox One, 1 terabyte Xbox One, even an old one. I'm fine with that rather than the S version. And my price sweet spot right now is $199 for an Xbox One, 1 terabyte. So that is just my mindset on price per gaming console.
That could be plausible because, like Chris said, this is only 720p.
There is one factor, though, and you briefly touched on it, that could change the appeal to a degree, and it is the fact that apparently, this is according to Forbes, I know on the weekend you said elsewise, Chris, on ATGN, which you can find on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific, that's 11 p.m. East, 11 a.m. Eastern. Let's go with that one.
Yes, sir.
Well, maybe p.m. We will watch it all night, but apparently they did say
off.
Apparently they did say that there was going to be a new Mario game for the Switch.
Okay. I was not surprised if there would be. Ideally, their big games they would want to launch with would be Mario and Zelda, Super Smash Brothers, and Mario Kart. Some combination of those 4 games. If you put that out when it launches, there are a lot of Nintendo fanboys. I do not say that disparagingly, but they are people that love the Nintendo stuff, and a lot of them you will see vehemently defend the Wii U and things like that to this day. Those are the people that are going to buy this immediately, and from them, the word of mouth is going to go out and determine whether other people get it. By avoiding the whole Christmas rush, they've got a completely different market to hit there. They're just hitting the die-hard fans first, I think, and then hoping it spreads from there.
So let me pose a question or just an idea that I have.
Uh-oh.
Why wouldn't Nintendo just make a controller that's Bluetooth and connects with a tablet, such as Android or iPad, and just make games for those platforms versus creating this entirely proprietary system?
So they've kind of shied away from that. They're making their an actual Nintendo-developed first iOS game is exclusive to iOS temporarily. It's the
Every
Mario
single
Run
time.
game or whatever it is.
Right.
But they've kind of been wanting to stick to the hardware side of things. I don't know why exactly, but they kind of did see what happened with Sega, who got out of the hardware business to presumably make games, and their games were terrible also. I think Nintendo just wants to stay where they are for now. If this fails, you might very well see them realize, okay, we could put official ROMs out so people can play them, do official apps versus people illegally downloading ROMs, and let people play that way. And that could be an interesting transition. And in all honesty, that could very well be what the virtual console is on this new gaming system. If they've got the Tegra chips in there, for all we know, it's running Android in the background. And instead of just going to their virtual store to buy things, you're literally downloading the ROMs from the virtual store, and it's running that way. So this could very well be the future as you see a lot of these games on Android and iOS tablets, because that's basically what the Switch is a beefed up tablet of some kind.
I think with the Switch, what they really need to do is just focus on the fun factor, because as long as they're building hardware that does not meet the Microsoft and Sony versions of consoles, they are going to have another element of fun. And I want to give an example of that. My wife just the other day commented on how much she missed playing Mario Kart on the Wii. My dad and his girlfriend both bought Wii U's because they were hoping for that same experience, that fun that they had on the Wii. And that's what they need to do, is they need to have something that is going to appeal to the people who don't usually play the games that they usually would with traditional consoles.
The casual gamer.
Exactly.
And this is why I brought up the whole thing with why doesn't Nintendo just focus on creating apps for Android and iOS? Because there's clearly a market for the casual gamer on those platforms. So in a way, it almost makes more sense to me for them to focus on something like that than to create this hardware where it's going to be, at this point, I think, for somebody like myself that's not even really a gamer, what's the selling point to this?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, in all honesty, part of the reason they're not doing it right now is because people are just going to keep stealing the games that are out there on Android because people just download the ROMs and put them in emulators. And I'm not saying that facetiously. You can go and look online. Everyone's like, here, use this emulator app, and here's where you can go to download all the ROMs. I'm like, huh, that's not cool.
Well, I can't wait to see what Nintendo does with this, though. I really can't wait to see what they do, because I think that they have hit a point that they have to make this work, or they're going to have to just get out of the whole game, like console gaming or hardware gaming sector. They can't have two flops in a row.
What's astounding to me, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is it's a 3-minute video they released, and it has sparked this much conversation and speculation on the internet. That just goes to show you just how powerful Nintendo still is everyone's like, man, I got to find out more. I want to know more. It's still interesting.
Everybody wants Nintendo to do well. It's the fact that Nintendo, in a way, stands in its own way most of the time, where they could do stuff, but they just never quite succeed.
Yeah.
I think the Wii U is a good example of that.
I agree. I think that you hit it on the head there, Sunkast. So that is going to go ahead and take us to the end of our news segment. Before we do wrap up, I want to remind everybody that we are indeed part of the Gonna Geek Network. And also on the Gonna Geek Network is a wonderful show called Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And in this week's Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., they talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Check out Stargate Pioneer, Haley, and Lauren in that at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so this week we want to take a moment to talk about something that was a hot topic when it was announced. It was something that comic book fans, comic book movie fans really were unsure of. Back in the day, there was the announcement of this movie called Guardians of the Galaxy, and many people thought it would be a flop, including myself. I think pretty much everybody at this table thought that it was likely to be a flop. I don't know about Sunkast, but he's the
Definitely
same as SP,
not.
so why not?
I never said flop.
You commented that you didn't know how it was going to be received by the general public. I remember you talking about
does that mean flop in Steven language?
It does. Why not? It all does. But
Well, are we talking about flop, or are we talking about flippy floppy?
Flip flop Steven.
I know a thing or two about that. But no, everybody was a little unsure on this because really it was the first departure of the traditional comic book style movie that Marvel was doing at the time. And let's be honest, there was a talking raccoon. People didn't know how that would be would that be well received. As we know, Guardians of the Galaxy came out and destroyed the box office for all of eternity. And this week, we got announcement that there is indeed promotional material coming out for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We got ourselves a fun little teaser poster, as well as a bit of a teaser video. And it sounds like the amazing soundtrack is back with wonderful classic 80s style
Hooga
music.
shaga, hooga shaga.
No more. We can't do that. We can't do that. But no, it's really interesting to see how quickly the hype machine started to work on this. And I thought we would take a few minutes to talk about what our expectations are, our realistic expectations, because it was such a success. And I want to just start off here, and I want to give a quick little thing that I just discovered today. I didn't realize on the poster, I don't remember whose leg it was, but when you look in between their legs,
Star-Lord.
was it Star-Lord? You could see Baby Groot, and I didn't even know that till today. And I thought, how awesome is that came out? I got all excited, didn't even see Baby Groot, and now today I'm getting excited again because I saw Baby Groot on there. And of course, when the trailer came or the teaser came out, I 100% predicted Baby Groot being at the end, and sure enough, he was there at the end. But I love this hype machine with such little material.
James Gunn, who's the director of Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, by the way, his brother Sean Gunn, you might have heard or seen them before, Gilmore Girls or anything else that Sean Gunn has done his wonderful CGI for. Anyway, he is a master of the social media, right? He's like J.J. Abrams, and he's just out there. He's given like little snippets, whatever, and he's really engaging with the entire fan base. He knows, well, he's a fan himself, and he knows exactly what's going on. We talked about this on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. last week when the podcast is out right now, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy was just a phenomenon. My dad had not seen it. So when I was gone a couple of weeks last month, I took care of a family emergency, ended up at the family lake home with my dad, and we just put it on one night just to go to sleep to, really. And he was so excited. He was so tired. He was so excited about it that he stayed awake for the whole thing and watched it. And it is generational. It is funny. It is out of the bounds. You don't have to know what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe in general to enjoy it. It's a one-off, and it's creating its own Star Wars-like universe. And I just can't. It had a great soundtrack with it as well. And the way they're treating this, it's amazing. And Groot, how can you go wrong with Groot? I mean, the guy's adorable, and he's got his little Star-Lord outfit now on too. He's a little fanboy for Star-Lord.
Do you want to know a Groot fact that James Gunn put out that's going to make a lot of people cry? Groot doesn't remember any of those guys after his death from Guardians 1. Yeah. James Gunn said that in an interview, and you could just hear the internet collectively go, "Oh man."
I was wondering about that. It's understandable though.
Yeah. He did confirm that in an interview. He said that Groot does not remember the events of Guardians 1, so he does not remember the rest of the team.
So did you guys watch the trailer, though?
Yes. The teaser. The teaser.
Whatever. Did you watch
a trailer.
Did you
watch the teaser? Yes, I did watch the teaser.
It was amazing because it gave all the highlights without giving absolutely anything away whatsoever. And just, Steven, we've kind of razzed you quite a bit this podcast. Do you need a hug? Come on. I'll give you a hug. I'll give you a hug. I said no. I said no.
We just need to find you a laptop that's as pathetic as you are, Stephen.
It's so true, though. That's such a great point. Like, it really does do a great job of telling a bit of what the tone's gonna, like, what we're to expect with number 2 without giving anything away. And we need more of that with trailers. Of course, when the actual trailer comes out, I'm sure it'll give away the entire plot, but you know.
The reason for that, though, is that Guardians of the Galaxy is its own entity in the sense that it's so huge that it doesn't even need to have any sort of idea of what actually happens in this movie. It just needs scenes. Anything funny, anything that goes along the same lines of what you found in the first movie in any sort of teaser or trailer, and people will lap it up. It was an amazing movie.
Yeah, no expectations whatsoever other than the bridge to Infinity War.
And let's be honest here. We know that 2 of the hosts on this show have actually opted to watch Guardians of the Galaxy as a repeat instead of watching crappy movies like the new Fantastic Four.
Fan-4-stick.
High five, Chris. High five.
Yeah, definitely have not watched that. Yep.
It was one of the few movies that I've actually gone and seen more than once in the theater.
You mean Guardians, not Fantastic Four, right?
Yes, Guardians.
Okay, I just of course.
Never even seen that movie.
It was so bad I want to go see it again.
I was so shocked by Chris Pratt that I literally drove from the theater to the gym. I was like, oh, if he could do that, so can I. I mean, that's basically what happened, because he went from that kind of flabby guy that you saw in Parks and Rec to this really cut guy, and you're like, whoa. I remember his wife not liking it later. I don't like my husband being a sex object. It's basically what she said. So, well, too late. It's out there.
His wife didn't like you? Is that what you said?
No, it's not what I said. Stop trying to make trouble. Watch out, or else I will give you a hug.
Oh, your wife liked Chris Pratt.
Yeah, my wife does like Chris Pratt, actually.
Is that why you're working out now? I see a little role playing, hey?
I guess. Whatever you call it up in Canada, sure.
Do we need a referee?
We always need a referee, but
Quite possibly.
This is just, though, the beginning of the hype train, and everybody that I've seen really likes it. In the chat, they seem to be loving it, and I can't wait to see what else they have. And I just have to say, I can never say her last name, but Zoe, she's in GOTG, and she's in Star Trek. Come on, throw her in Star Wars. That's all I want. That's all I want.
So, real quick, I know it's not on Guardians. Did you guys see the Logan teaser that came out for Wolverine 3?
Yes.
Any trailer that uses Johnny Cash singing Hurt has already got me intrigued, I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
16 years with one character. Thank you very much, Hugh Jackman. No matter what happens, thank you very much. It was a nice rendition of Wolverine, and we'll see what X-23 brings us after this.
And he gets incredibly more jacked with each movie.
Dude just wants to eat a cheeseburger. Let him eat a cheeseburger.
It's so funny. It's so true, Chris. I ended up a couple months ago watching the first X-Men, and he's like scrawny compared to himself now. It's hilarious.
Well, that's because Hugh Jackman wasn't supposed to be Wolverine originally. Someone else was supposed to get the role, and then it was Doug Ray Scott, who was in Mission Impossible 2 at the time, and there was some conflict that came up, so they brought in Hugh Jackman. So, like, his sideburns aren't actually real for half the movie because they were gluing on fake sideburns as he grew them in. So it's a complete accident that Hugh Jackman ever became Wolverine, but what a happy accident it is.
He did mention that the surgery to implant the blades into his wrists and arms, he did say that that was the most painful part of becoming Wolverine.
Well, I suppose that is going to take us to the end of the show. Before we get to the plugs, I just want to let everybody know that we are going to be away next week on the count of Halloween and us having to hand out candy. So, unfortunately...
In the park.
That's
They're
true.
lollipops. Do you still have any of those lollipops left, Sunkast?
All gone. I gave them away.
Yeah, so we won't be here, but the week after we'll return, and we'll be streaming on the Monday at geeks.live. Let's go ahead and start off with the new Stargate Pioneer. John, what do you want to plug?
You can check out GFQ Network. That's where I do some of my podcasting and a whole bunch of other stuff. GFQnetwork.com. We have a whole bunch of shows on there, from wrestling with Matt Men. We even have this cool little show that talks about hair loss. Yes, I know a lot of people actually suffer hair loss, and we have a show that talks about hair loss. So if you're one of those people, we have a show that's all about hair loss. You can come by to gfqnetwork.com and check that out. And also follow me on Twitter at Sunkast.
Is that Sunkast with a C or a K?
With a K.
I want a beard suppressant. Can you guys actually market that? Because I don't need a hair loss product.
Yes, it's called estrogen.
And Stephen would know all about that with his gender reassignment surgery that he had today. I'm sorry,
right.
Stephanie. I get mixed up.
Or is the Stefania?
Ooh, I like that, Stefania. Sounds good. Sounds good. Chris, what would you like to plug or promote?
I'll do the typical thing I do is say, everyone go check out the Gonna Geek Network over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. We've got a variety of awesome podcasts there, and we do have a lot of live content we're streaming all the time over at Geeks.live. Tons of entertainment for you guys to go and catch whenever you need some geeky needs satisfied.
SP, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote? Maybe a podcast about podcasting?
Yeah, sure. There's better podcasting out there, but I was actually going to promote the @StarlingTribune Twitter account. Michelle, who's a new co-host on Starling Tribune, she has taken over live tweeting duties, not only for Arrow, which Starling Tribune is about, its podcast on the Gonna Geek Network on the CW show Arrow, but she is live tweeting all the DC TV shows. So that's going to be an important account to keep your eyes on as the 100th episode of Arrow airs in just a couple of weeks, along with the big DC TV crossover between Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow.
Awesome. And I want to just take a moment here to actually just comment on the wonderful city of Vancouver where I am right now, because it's funny. As I came in today in the cab, it's just funny how many different things that I saw where they film different things. And I know, like, I've been here plenty of times. You know, we got Neil. He tells us all the hidden gems, but it's just so funny every time I come here. Not even funny, just neat to see them in person. So give a wonderful shout out to City of Vancouver. You may not be able to offer affordable housing, but hey, you film a lot of stuff here. But that does take us to the end of episode 166 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast show. I'm Stephen Jondrew. I'm going to put my robe on.
Yeah, put it on.
I'm Chris. I don't have a robe.
And I'm the new Sunkast. See you guys later. Bye.
I'm going to go catch them all.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@GonnaGeek.com. You can find our entire archive at GonnaGeek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. This show was produced and edited by Stephen Jondrew of Gonna Geek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.